Good evening and welcome to tonight's Sunday's edition of Daily Record Hotline Live. We've had a busy day of football today with both Celtic and Rangers winning. Celtic comfortable 3-1 winners at Fir Park against Motherwell. Rangers winning 4-0 at home to Ross County, which means that everything stays as you were at the top of the table. With Celtic going into a Wednesday night game in hand against Dundee, where they've got the chance to re-establish a 13-point gap at the top. I'm joined from Fir Park by Fraser Wilson, my colleague who was there for today's match. Fraser, it was fairly routine, wasn't it? Stroke almost became a bit of a tough old watch in the second half.
Aye, Celtic have found Fir Park a tricky place to come in recent years, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a wee...
Yeah, but they always win.
Yeah, they always find a way late on, recently especially, but I don't know, I think there was a wee flicker of nerves when Motherwell pulled it back to one each, but crucially, I think they only stayed level for 6 or 7 minutes before Ianis Hagi knocked Celtic back ahead. So very routine second half, 2 goals chalked off, another host of chances missed. It really should have been far more comfortable. Should have been done and dusted long before Jota's big entrance. And
you got the big storybook ending, didn't you?
It was always going to happen, wasn't it? As soon as he climbed off the bench in the 65th minute, you just knew it was all about one man, Jota. And to do it, that end there, right in front of his die-hard fan base, oh boy, did he milk it. Apparently there was tears at the end as well. Couldn't quite see the way up here, but there was tears at the end as well.
By the way, he looked like an emotional wreck at the end, Fraser, which just tells you, he's obviously been through the ringer a little bit over these last 18 months. Very unusual to see a player that emotional.
you got a better view of it than us then, away up at this end of the stand. But it's been a tough couple of years for the lad, isn't it, over there making all that money in the Middle East. My heart really goes out to him. My heart really bleeds. But in all seriousness, man, I mean, these guys like Jota, are serious about their football. It's not all about making money. Whether it's 190 grand a week, whether it's 40 grand a week, they're getting weighed in pretty well anyway. So the football is what really makes them tick, guys like Jota. And he simply wasn't getting enough of it out there, was he? And the same when he went to Rennes, he was very much a bit part player. So he's finally back in a place where he knows he's loved, he's adored, where he played the best football of his career. He's still at an age where he would think the best of his career is still to come. It just all adds up to a really good bit of business for Celtic. And I think the Celtic fans, I think they've already reconnected with Jota the moment he walked in the door. But that wee debut goal today only helped to solidify that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hear what you're saying. And I know that press box at Fir Park's away down the kind of wrong end, if you like, from where you wanted to be for the Jota goal. But even if you couldn't see his tears, I'm sure you saw his hair. It's actually quite spectacular. It's more impressive than I remember it.
Bouncy, isn't it?
Oh,
You'll be replacing Joe Hart in some adverts there, I think. It was the first thing that jumped out at me, literally, when he climbed off the bench. It's quite something. He's just a striking performer all round, isn't he? Whether it's his appearance, whether it's his dazzling skills with the ball at his feet. And I tell you what, there was a couple of mazy runs in that second half that proved he's no lost any of the magic despite struggling for game time in his last 2 clubs. So
he did look desperate to make an impression, didn't he? He was desperate. Every time he got in the ball, he was trying to either beat a man, clip a ball into the box, or more often than not, try and create a bit of room to get a shot away. He was desperate to get on the score sheet.
He didn't waste anything either. I think there was an end product from everything he tried.
Yeah.
So it was a bit, it was a right decent half-hour debut for him.
I think it'll excite the Celtic fans, Fraz, because see, even I think the first time he got the ball down at his feet, I think he did about 3 or 4 step overs, and it brought it right back to you, didn't it? That's what Celtic are getting here. This boy is genuinely the sort of player who'll get bums off seats.
Where does he fit in though, Keith, right? I mean, does he start? If they had an Old Firm game next weekend, does he start? Because obviously Nicholas Kuhn has been the key man this season, the top man. And then you've got Daizen Maeda, who again probably put in a man of the match performance in the other wing today with 2 assists and a goal.
It was terrific.
I don't think right now Jota's going to be a starter, unless it's just to rest the 2 aforementioned players. But right now, if there's an Old Firm game next week, I think he's going to have to bide his time till he gets in that starting 11. But he's got the number 7 on his back. He's got the old salute celebration has been pulled out pulled out the bag already. It's all
that
there.
was nicely styled out, wasn't it? Fraz, I'll come back to you. Stay on. I'm going to jump over to Ibrox now, where we're joined by Andy Newport. There's obviously watching another routine win, Andy. It seems that, in fact, I'm hearing the second half was a bit of a slog.
I mean, routine was absolutely the way to describe it. They were 4-0 up, 3-0 up, sorry, within 35 minutes. They started the second half off with a bit of a push as well. Had a few chances, could have scored, another 2 or 3 at the start of the second half. Just couldn't quite get it. Sort of came off it a wee bit after that, and then obviously get the first league penalty since May, which will please some of the Rangers fans who've been moaning about that for a wee while. So straightforward. I mean, I did my match report on it's Groundhog Day, would you believe, over in America. There's another 6 weeks of winter to come over in winter, but I tell you what, it's just deja vu for County. Every time they come here, they just seem to get scalped. I think this is their 13th trip to Glasgow to face Rangers. They got a couple of draws their first 2 times back in 2016, but since then it's just been one pasting after another. So, I mean they were fairly awful. I think that's them down only 5 points above St Johnstone at the bottom, and I think if they carry on like they did today, they could be in trouble.
Well, they never look to me like a team that believe that they're capable of taking anything away when they visit Ibrox. They kind of just look as if they're turning up, take their dumps, and go back up the road again.
They did fairly well for the first 18 minutes until Rangers scored. And they had a chance just at the back post when it was goalless. But as soon as Rangers scored, that was it. Any sort of suggestion that they were getting back in the game was pretty much wiped out. Obviously, Rangers get a huge bit of luck for the second goal, massive deflection off a Ianis Hagi free kick. But I thought County were just, at times it was like just waves after wave of attack. I just thought they showed nothing today. Just spoke to Don Cowie there, and he was sort of, he was quite critical, especially the first goal when Václav Černy's allowed to sort of cut in off the wing onto his favoured left foot. And he was absolutely right, it was too easy, but it was too easy all afternoon for Rangers. Apart from that sort of 20-minute spell where County had a wee bit of a go in the second half, but at which point Rangers had won the game already. So it was, I really think they need to have a long serious think about things, because if they carry on as they are, the lights might be going out in them as they've just went out in me. So
oh no, don't say that.
Perfect. Andy, talk to me while you can still stand there without falling over. About Ianis Hagi. What was his performance like? I know, a couple of goals. Because we're getting some comments in. I'll read one here from Alfie Mullen. As a Rangers fan, I believe that my club has treated Ianis Hagi shamefully. While I would like him to stay, I think he should tell the club to shove it.
I don't think there's any doubt that he has been treated shabbily at times. I mean, you think about listen, there was a contract issue there. Rangers simply weren't going to pay the money. They didn't think at that point he was worth the money. That's the long and the short of it. He was
obviously, it was about six grand a week or something, wasn't it? The pay rise.
Yeah, I mean, which put us when you consider what the likes of Kieran Dowell and Rabbi Matondo have been trousering of late. Seems a fairly scant, a fairly meagre amount. But the one thing you can never take away from Ianis Hagi is his utter professionalism, and the way he has conducted himself throughout this whole period has been an absolute testament to him as a character and as a professional. So, and he continued. I mean, we asked him after the Old Firm game when we scored just down in front of that goal down there about a month ago, if he was still happy. There continues to be rumours about him whether or not he's going to depart, and he shot that down. Listen, I think he would like to stay here, but it all comes down. I think Rangers need to present him with an offer that justifies the way he's playing right now. Listen, I think maybe there was an argument to be made. He could have left the club. Obviously, when he first came back for his injury, he's never been a player that's been blessed with pace, and he looked a yard or two slower after his injury. But I think now you can see he's fully back to what he was before that injury, and I think he deserves whatever pay rise he may feel is acceptable to him. I think he's performing well enough. I think his reintroduction to the team has coincided with Rangers' upturn. I think they were a team that were absolutely devoid of inspiration, creativity, guile. I think he gives you that. He obviously gives you a goal threat as well, as he showed today. He obviously was lucky in the right place to get on the end of a Cherney shot when it was spilled by the keeper. Gets a huge dose of luck with the free kick, but it was a shades of that Braga free kick a couple of years ago, if you remember that one here in the Europa League, massive deflection. But I think he's been key to whatever upturn Rangers have had, where they would be without him. Only Rangers fans can dread to think. So,
I think you're absolutely spot on in your assessment. I think you're absolutely correct to say that he's been treated terribly. But I'm also looking at a situation here where, if I'm not wrong, he's out of contract at the end of this season. They've just allowed the likes of Ryan Kent, Morelos, all these guys to go. Hagi is a talent. I think they should be shifting heaven and earth to put a contract in front of that boy that he likes the look of and he's prepared to sign. Otherwise, they're making the same mistakes all over again.
Yeah, I mean, like, because we asked him there, Flip Clement there, sorry, don't know what that was. We were asking Flip Clement there in the press conference about Hagi, about Václav Černý as well. Obviously, at this stage, it looks like both of them will be leaving the club in the summer because, I know there was reports last week that there had been a contract put in front of Ianis Hagi. My information is that there's been no talks as yet. His agents have had no proposal put in front of them. It was what the word that was put to me. So, listen, I'm not saying that might not change. That might change. But as things stand, that there's been no contract yet. As I said, he told us last month he's keen to stay, but there's no contract offer there as such. And then you're looking at Václav Černý, we're looking at £6.5 million. If Rangers want to sign him, again, I think those are kind of sums that where this club is at the minute. They would be reluctant to pay if they can pay them at all. I'm not sure, they're already committed in the summer to spending £4.5 million in Oscar Cortez. And say what you want about that one, given how little he's ever. I still have no idea if he's even worth that, because I've barely seen enough of him to make a judgment call on it.
You've probably seen him once every 3 months.
Yeah. So
for
and he's
90 minutes and then he's injured again. So
still no word on when he's back either. So
no, I just feel. I mean, I think it would be ridiculous. I think the kind of fee, what is it, about six between 6 and 7 million for Černý? I think that would be that would represent an excellent bit of business, great value. But Hagi's a free. You don't even need to. He's inside the squad already. It should be so simple. But
listen, and they've cleared a huge whack off the wage bill last summer. It looks like they're starting to clear another big whack off it. I mean, as we discussed, I think last time I was on with Keith was before Thursday night's game. The guys that they're now going to rely on to be the sort of the fringe men and the guys that that fill out the squad are going to be the young boys. I mean, you've got Kieran Dowell who's on 20 odd grand a week. Matondo approaching 30. That's 50 grand a week they've got off the wage bill. For two guys that have provided what exactly? What way have those two guys contributed in their time here? So
the square root of sod all.
Yeah. So listen, there should be room to play with now, you'd imagine. And then you're looking at somebody like Ianis Hagi, who is clearly making a contribution and has been key to whatever you want to call it, a resurgence or just an upturn.
Just the progress,
he's been central to it, and Václav Černý as well. So obviously there's a transfer fee. His wages are going to be pretty substantial as well, you'd imagine, just given he's a Czech international who's played at some pretty big clubs. But I think you can see how important he is to this team, and if there is any way in which they can get a deal to get him tied down for next season, they need to do it. But right now it's the priorities tomorrow and what deals they can get in. We just spoke to Flip Clement, and he's been taking this kind of approach anytime the last month or two, pretty much since Patrick Stewart came in. He's no longer sort of entertaining questions about what can be done transfer wise. He was always played things pretty close to his chest in that front, but he's given us even less now, and basically just throwing everything back to the board. It's now down to them. So that was effectively
Patrick.
Yeah, that's effectively his message after the game there. He's told the board what he wants. Now they have to go and see what they can do. So I think that's the pressure on them. He clearly feels he needs certainly probably a couple more. I think they need certainly another winger in. They've got rid of Matondo, they've got Dow who could play out there. He shot down these suggestions that Lovelace might be on his way out of the building. He said he was injured today. That was the reason why he wasn't in the squad, despite there's a few rumours going about he might be going back to Millwall.
Same with the Almaz.
Yep. Yeah, so I think Yilmaz again. I think he's addressed that before the game, saying that he's got he's still just injured with that injury picked up at Old Trafford. So, so I would, I think Rangers do need a couple of players. Whether they get them or not, I'm not entirely convinced. As much as they've saved money, I just think funds are in such short supply because of £17 million loss last year. They've got money. They've had to set aside money to pay for Hampden. There's obviously the costly rebuild of the Colton Road end across there. I think funds are going to be tight, and I wonder if they just might think, listen, this season is going to pan out as it is.
Write it off.
It's a transition season. This is what a transition season looked like. So,
Andy, we've got a comment here from Rangers Easy OK watching on YouTube, and thanks for all the comments that are coming in. Keep them coming, folks. Hope we can get one in before tomorrow night. I would pay the money for Czerny. That's 22 goals and assists, and we've just hit February. He's right, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's contributing. As I'm saying, there's been enough players at the club over the last few years who have taken away big, pretty big heavy wage packets and have delivered nothing for it. That's a guy, and what I really like about him is he was honest enough to admit earlier on this season. You remember back to the miss against Malmo, the miss against Lyon here, especially the Lyon game, which was a costly one. They got a pretty heavy defeat that night. He was honest enough to hold his hands up and say that wasn't good enough. And what I like about him is since then he's upped his levels and he's providing and he's scoring and he's assisting and he's making a contribution, which, as I said, too many people down the years here lately haven't done. They've taken away big healthy wage packets, and what value have they provided?
Yeah.
Very little.
Andy, as ever, you give us great value. I know you've got some work to do, so I'll let you charge on. We'll go back to Fraser. But thanks for joining. Oh, tomorrow night, by the way, transfer special. We're doing a late night edition after 10 o'clock, and I hope to see you then, and maybe you'll have some news for us on comings and goings.
Well, we'll see. Good jury duty this week, so we'll see.
That's right. Right, okay.
The doc.
Right,
Cheers.
I'm not saying anything more about that.
Bye. There we go. Fraser.
I'm on a 4-minute countdown now, Keith. I've just been told.
4 minutes.
Watches are locking up here. Yep.
Right, that's okay because I've got one up my sleeve. Scott Burns, our transfer guru, will be joining us shortly to talk us
to the rescue.
through what he expects to come in the transfer window. But just on the Celtic performance, Fraser, and the situation that they're in. After the game, Brendan Rodgers was kind of pretty bullish in the way he was talking about he wants more bodies in that door. And I don't think he's going to be happy with excuses if they don't arrive.
No, and I'm sure you'll be reading about it pretty soon. He said to us that obviously a striker is a priority. Somebody to back up Adam Ida. And he more or less said it will be a loan signing if they get one in. At this stage of the window, you don't want to risk big money on just pulling somebody in when the last minute and being stuck with them. So it is most likely to be a loan signing if they do get another striker in. But the names that have all been bandied about in the last few days all seem to be heading elsewhere. So it's going to be a right interesting watch to see who does come in that position. This
quote leapt off the page at me. It's always difficult brackets at this stage in the window, but there are good players available in January. There's always the mentality that you can't get good players, but there is availability and we can afford it. So I'd like to think we can do that. That's thrown the gauntlet down, is it not?
It is. He also said he's not going to fall out with anyone this window, so that can only be aimed at the board. But look, the big one was Matthias. I need to get this right. Kvistgaarden, wasn't it? The guy that they tried to bring in 2 summers ago for roughly 4.5 to 5 million. He's now done so well with Brøndby. They're looking for upwards of 12, 13, 14 million now, which would be another record outlay for Celtic. So I don't expect that to be going through just the way Rodgers was speaking after the game this afternoon.
I think you're right.
Going through in the next 24 hours. really interesting to see where they look now. Iheanacho's old Leicester striker Iheanacho was mentioned, but he's heading to Middlesbrough very quickly. That was off the cards. Evan Ferguson's another one that's been mentioned, but looks set to join West Ham.
Yeah.
No, look, they will have plenty of irons on the fire. It's just speaking of West Ham, that was an unintended link there, but just be interesting to see, one, whether they do get one across the line, and two, who it is. But see, Adam Maeda, to be fair, Adam Maeda's been in the spotlight for the last week now because of this situation with Kyogo leaving. And boy, has he answered the questions. I mean, outstanding at Villa Park, I think we'd all agree. Not just his 2 goals, just his general number 9 striker play, you know. And again today, a very similar type goal again, because he timed his run and knew to be between the posts. So a similar type goal again today, but strong, powerful, hit the post with a good 20-yard effort in the second half. Very unfortunate not to get an assist of his own when they had a goal, kind of dubious one chopped off by VAR when Tom Sparrow knocked into his own net.
The own goal, it was really marginal. I actually thought, with naked eye, I thought he timed and arched his run perfectly for that goal, Fraser. So I was surprised.
I thought it was brilliant the way he brought it down, turned, and then got away from, I think it was Liam Gordon. I really think the last 2 games, Adam Maeda is looking like the £9 million striker Celtic hoped they were getting. So, really, if they're bringing somebody in, it might well be to be backup to Adam Maeda. A different type. Obviously, Kyogo was such a different type to Adam Maeda. Maybe they're looking for that wee nippy type striker to give a different option.
Yeah, I think that probably is part of the thinking.
That as well, though, Keith. You know, that's him in 16 goals now.
And he's looking more accomplished in the final third than he had looked previously. You know, you always felt with Maeda, he'd pace to burn and he'd destroy people in terms of his running power and his energy levels. But he's added a bit of finesse and quality and, you know, the final ball, the final kind of trick inside the penalty box. He's far more rounded than he was even 2 years ago, I think, Maeda. So I think he is an option.
Yeah, there's goals there. They just... Oh, the lights are about to go out in me here. Not the first time I've said that.
Do you know what? This has got absolute shambles written all over it, Fraz. So I'm going to let you go, right? And I'm going to go to the transfer. Listen, Fraz, thanks for joining us. Safe up the road. And we'll get your jammies and your cocoa ready for tomorrow night, and we'll catch up with you then.
Brilliant. Okay, look forward to it. Cheers, Keith.
Cheers, Fraz.
Dara.
And as if by magic, along comes Scott Burns. Scott, the fans that were getting all the comments, it's all geared towards the transfer window, what to expect, what they want to happen. You're the man in the know. With just over 24 hours remaining, what's hot, what's not right now?
I think it's like a Greek wedding just now, with the amount of teams that have got plates spinning.
Aye.
Could look like if I've been seconds factory, a royal dope of a royal doping factory, the way it's going. I think the problem you've got with Rangers and Celtic just now is that they obviously had the game this afternoon, and that's a spanning in the works. I think obviously the recruitment teams and that are working on deals behind the scenes, but the managers are both central to that as well. And I think you'll see that kicking on now that both these games are out the way. I think that's just an unnecessary distraction for them, certainly in terms of the transfer window. But as we spoke a bit before there, you spoke with Fraser there about and Brendan Rodgers has said as well, we need to bring in a striker before the close of the window. Obviously the one we're talking about is the one was the Bromby striker, Matthias Kvistgaard. Yep, obviously there's been talks with Bromby, but I spoke to Bromby sources this afternoon, and they are adamant there has been no bid from Celtic. Obviously, there has been discussions, and they were quite a bit apart in terms of the valuation. So, as it stands, unless Celtic come in late on, it's looking unlikely. But I see that Brendan Rodgers has indicated it's more likely to be a loan signing now. But I think just now, just in terms of, it's very hard to get top strikers in a permanent deal in January. And if you do, you're paying a premium for them. So maybe he's thinking, well, take somebody in short term and get more value for money come the summer. Although you would have thought when they'd sold Jota that they probably would have had a ready-made replacement to come in the door right after it. Although Jota's
when Kyogo went,
Kyogo went, Aye. But Jota's obviously a slightly different position. But there's a few. I know that there was David Strelic of Slovan Bratislava was discussed.
He's an interesting one, isn't he?
Yep. I think that's what. But they turned down £5 million from Middlesbrough, and their sporting director said they wanted like anything between 8 and 10 million. So I mean, even at this stage, this is probably a lot of money. Could they get him for less? Maybe in the summer. You probably find that they probably could. So I think it's more about value for money now for Celtic than anything else, and getting the right players in at the right price.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, Scott, because even this time last week, you're looking at the situation, you think, well, Tierney looks as if that can get done ahead of the deadline. Jota's back in, and you look at it and think, well, wow, what a brilliant window this is shaping up, because there probably is going to be a striker as well. And yet here we are, 24 hours away. And I think the worst case scenario for the Celtic supporters would be that Tierney isn't allowed to leave Arsenal early, and that Celtic go into the second half of the season with Daizen and Daizen Maeda as, you know, their main options up front. It doesn't feel quite how it felt a week ago, put it that way.
I mean, it's very much. I mean, they have got a few other options they're looking at. I mean, there's one I know of south of the border, so that could quite easily happen. I mean, but no, I mean, whatever happens, Celtic will still attract players, and they'll get a quality, as Brendan Rodgers has said. I mean, there's still quality players available in this window. It's just about whether it's a short-term fix or a long-term fix. And I think Celtic, as it stands, they just need another striker in at the top end for the second half of the season domestically, and obviously the big Champions League games. I mean, you look at him in Kelechi and the actual. I mean, obviously Brendan's worked with him before. He's obviously sounded him out, asked the question, and it's come back that he's going to Middlesbrough. So I think this is the problem that the Celtic are going to have. Yeah, they've got Champions League football, but if there's like a half-decent club in England comes in, then it's very difficult to get them north of the border.
And we think Celtic might be about to lose another striker, don't we?
I think there's every chance they could lose a striker. It just depends on whether it's now or the end of the season.
And we're talking about Daniel Cummings.
Daniel Cummings, yeah, obviously he came on and made his Celtic debut in the Champions League game against Aston Villa. Scored an awful lot of goals for the Celtic B team in the Lowland League and in the Champions League youth levels. So he's obviously his goals make him look as if he's a top prospect. But so, I mean, Celtic have offered him a new contract, but it looks like as it stands that he's heading to West Ham. I mean, my understanding is that a pre-contract has been agreed. There's some reports down south that West Ham have made a £500,000 offer for him, and as yet there's been no reply from Celtic. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, because if it is £500,000, then I think it's more than Celtic would get if he went in the summer for a cross-border compensation. So I think it's one that Celtic have got to weigh up, but it looks really likely that they'll lose another one of their top talents from their academy.
I don't think Brendan Rodgers is particularly pleased with this one, Scott, because I think he spoke on Friday, didn't he? And he was almost pointing to it, just saying that young players at this club, they need to understand, they need to show a bit of patience. I'll play young players when they're ready for the first team. And he says you've got to be careful if you listen to agents who've got their own agendas. So well, I was going to say it's almost as if Brendan Rodgers was aware of what was going, but he was definitely aware that there was some interest and some possibility of losing this young boy to West Ham.
No, that's certainly the case. I mean, the amount of goals he scored, would put him on the radar for a lot of clubs. You know what I mean? Especially the goals he scored in the Youth Champions League. So
yeah,
he's always going to put him on the radar. I mean, if Celtic lose him, they're not exactly blameless in this either. I mean, I don't think they were very proactive in terms of offering a new contract. They have offered a new contract now, but if they thought that highly of him, why didn't they do it months ago, well before this window opened, and tried to nail him down on a long-term contract? Then they would have been in a better position than leaving it as late as they did.
Right, what else? What else is cooking?
I mean, obviously, but we're talking about the KT one. That'll be, reports down south the other day said it's unlikely he'll come up, but I think there's still a wee bit of hope there. But also depends on, I see he's on the bench tonight, isn't he? Him and Zinchenko as well. So remains to be seen what happens in the next 24 hours. But there's lots of names.
You don't think you don't think that one's dead yet.
I don't think
I was speaking to somebody at Celtic over the weekend who very, very doubtful. They felt that Arsenal were making it just too awkward, and it didn't look likely at all. But that doesn't mean they're still not trying to do something.
No, the one thing is that, I mean, Kieran Tierney, he won't rock the boat to make it happen. The one thing about him is his professionalism, and I mean, he'll give everything he's got until his time's up at Arsenal, sort of thing. So there's no issue on that front. But I still think that I mean, I was told earlier on by somebody, they still thought it was 50-50. So it'd be interesting to see what happens in the last 24 hours to see if Arsenal keep all the left back options. If Zinchenko goes, then it'll all come down to the ins and outs. And once that Arsenal door closes, then what Mikel Arteta's got, he might just let him go. So we'll see. I mean, a name being banded about yesterday was that Celtic were interested in the Hearts left back James Benrice. But there's been nothing club to club in that one. But obviously he's had an impressive season, sort of thing.
He's been good.
Yeah, but that was one that's been thrown about. I mean, it was certainly mentioned by a few people to me yesterday, but there's been nothing club to club. So
right, because that is the other side of this, Scott. If Arsenal dig their heels in and don't let Kieran Tierney get away, Celtic are going to have to find a left back from somewhere before 11 o'clock tomorrow night.
They are going to they have to get a left back. But saying that, they've still got Adam Montgomery, who has got good Premiership experience. And I know that if they do bring in another left back, I would expect Adam Montgomery to go out on loan, probably back to the Premiership. If they don't, then obviously have to remain as cover. So they've still got cover. I know it's not top level cover that you'd expect, but it's still half decent cover. So
listen, this is Brendan Rodgers we're talking about, though, and he's made the point over and over about you go into the window in whatever shape you're in, you have to come out of the window in stronger shape. And that's why, you know, Alec Vai's been allowed to leave. He's off to Como on loan, obviously. I just feel if they can't get a deal done for Kieran Tierney, they're going to have to move heaven and earth to try and get a left back in that Brendan Rodgers will feel satisfied with. I think it would be my verdict.
I think in an ideal world that Brendan would want somebody in, you know what I mean? But we know what Celtic are like in these windows. The manager doesn't always get what he wants. Although most of the time he does.
He's done quite well lately.
No, I'm saying most of the time he does. But there's another element there as well that, I mean, you've got another, Adam Montgomery is waiting to see if another left back comes in to see if he can get out on loan. Another one's Johnny Kenny, the Celtic striker. There's quite a bit of Premiership interest in him.
Okay.
But as it stands, and I know he's not near
Scottish Premiership.
Yep.
Right.
I don't think he will, but I don't think he'll be allowed to go unless Celtic can get another more experienced striker in. Obviously, he did well at Shamrock Rovers in the first half of the season.
So the Chris Garden, we don't think there's any possibility of that happening. I think you're right, and I wonder if Celtic feel that the price has just gone through the roof. I believe that they've been looking at this boy for over a year now, and that the price has more than doubled over that period. So I think Bromby might be talking himself out of a deal there, but you just can't say never because Celtic do have money in the bank, Scott.
No, they've got the money, and probably, I mean, there's no doubt they could pay the asking price of Bromby. It's whether they see it as value for money, and it's whether they can see that, you know, they could develop the player and sell him for a massive fee, as has been the model in recent seasons. So, I mean, somebody said to me, I think it was about Celtic were looking at 7 million, and I think that the Danes were looking at a deal starting at 12. I mean, obviously they've probably tried to meet in the middle somewhere, and as of yet it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe tomorrow Brendan might push the Celtic board into saying, look, let's do this. You know what I mean? Push it up another, I don't know, £1 million or whatever it takes. We just don't know as it stands.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a big gap. Anything else? Any other clubs that's coming across your desk at this minute in time, Scott?
Right, I know Andy said earlier on he's not sure if any players will come into Rangers. I mean, they're certainly spinning a few plates just now. There's a Portuguese player, I believe they're looking at, and there's another attacking player who let me say, would be well known in the Premier League. But as it stands, that deal is probably hanging in the balance.
Right. So an experienced striker, English Premier League.
I didn't say anything about English Premier League.
You said Premier League.
Eh?
I was guessing you
Scottish
weren't talking Swedish.
Scottish Premiership,
right,
sorry.
right,
Scottish
okay.
Premiership. A well-kept face. So we'll see if
That's
that develops.
interesting,
But
Bunzy.
as I said earlier on,
You're teasing us.
that was less likely now since when I first heard about it.
Right, okay. Lawrence Shankland.
Pacey striker.
Right, okay. And where else should we be looking, Scott?
I was at the Hearts yesterday. Neil Critchley was saying that he's obviously done a lot with his squad. He wasn't ruling out doing any more. Player of interest to him is the Partick Thistle left back Harry Milne.
All right.
And that will be a blow to St Johnstone, who are also keen on the left back, who's out of contract in the summer. So I'm interested to see if either of those two Premiership clubs will try and do a deal before the close of the window tomorrow night. But that's another left back option, and certainly for Hearts, it would be a good backup for James Penrice.
Well, you wonder, you know, with what you were hearing there, linking Celtic with Penrice, you wonder if that's part of a domino chain there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could very possibly be. Hearts are having to look at what Plan B might look like.
Mm-hmm. So,
right, okay. Little Birdie said something about Ellie Youhan.
Ellie Youhan, you know, I don't think it's well documented that Stoke City are in for him at £1.5 million. I think the players' camp are hopeful that deal will happen before the end of the window. Blackburn were also in, but at half the price, and they are not willing, as it stands, to go anywhere near what Stoke have offered. So I would think that Hibs would probably try and cut a deal before the close of the window, and that would then allow them. They're still looking to strengthen, but that would give them additional revenues to go on by bringing in another winger and another midfielder sort of thing, because they were in for Daniel Gore of Man United, but he's since gone to Rotherham.
Yeah, it's a substantial fee. Right, okay, Burnsy. Listen, you need a nice early night tonight. You've got a big day ahead of you. It's Christmas Day in the Burns house tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll be speaking to you.
Just before I go though, right? Obviously Motherwell haven't got a manager, so they seem to be doing an awful lot of business for not having a manager, but I've been told that they've had 2 bids rejected for the Cove Rangers goalkeeper, Nicholas Suman, the Australian.
Right.
So
that's interesting. Because I tell you what, a couple of the new boys that were playing against Celtic today looked okay. They
obviously brought the goalkeeper in Bangkok, but the boy Suman, he's played in the A-League out in Australia. He came across a couple of years to Cove Rangers to try and play in Europe sort of thing. But he's highly rated because Stephen Gerrard had him on trial when he was Rangers manager. So I'll be interested to see what develops there if Motherwell can agree a fee.
Right, okay, Burnsy, let's do it all tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, Jammy's on, cup of cocoa, and let's. Are you expecting it to be busy tomorrow?
I still think there'll be a few deals, I do. It's been relatively quiet just now, just with the games and that, but no, I still think there'll be.
I think tomorrow might
double figures in terms of deals.
Yeah, I think tomorrow might be hectic. So you get a nice early kip, so you're nice and fresh for tomorrow night.
That'll be a first.
Brilliant, Burnsy. Thanks for joining us, mate.
All the best.
Cheers. And that's us. Another Hotline Live, done and dusted, but we're all sort of edging towards tomorrow now, and what drama lies ahead. I'm like Burnsy. I think there could be quite a bit of movement to and fro tomorrow. So we will be back at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. We're going to take it right through the window, which shuts at 11. And then see if there's one or two wee things dotting about in the minutes after it. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then, and thanks very much for joining us.